Hope here at Crafty Hope, and it is time for the week 31 mixed media prompt project for hashtag Crafty Hope prompts. If you've been here at any point in the past 30 weeks, you know that I have been creating weekly prompt cards by pulling 3 prompts a week from a list of 156 I have. You can get that full list below if you want them. But I'm pulling 3 prompts a week, altering a playing card each Monday with those prompts. This was my week 31 prompt card, and then on Saturday of each week I am taking those same 3 prompts and doing another project, just to show that these prompts are more versatile than just cards. So yeah, I think that's the bulk of it. I will, like I said, direct you to this one, though. Also at the end of this video there's a full playlist of all my cards and projects, along with some other people who have played along with this. I'm calling it Crafty Hope Prompts, so that's hashtag Crafty Hope Prompts. And if you play along, go ahead, use that hashtag and tag me so I can see what you have created with these prompts. You're welcome to use the ones I draw each week or pull from that list below. Alright, I'm trying to keep this short and sweet because I don't know how long this project's going to take me. This week, my prompts are gesso, mushroom, and tag. So gesso is pretty easy. I've got some here. I also have some black gesso, well, a couple of different black gessos. So I've got white gesso and black gesso as needed. I'm not super worried. That's just making sure I incorporate it somehow. Mushroom. My idea, as I mentioned in my Monday video, is to use these die cuts that I have recently gotten and not used. So you can see there's a couple of mushroom dies in there, and so I am going to use these 2 along with maybe a couple of like botanical ones. And for that I've got some different papers over here, altered papers, ephemera. This is something my friend Terry alcohol dyed. These are from the Your Creative Studio haul that I just unboxed. This is a Citrus Solve National Geographic. Here's something from a yearbook, and there's other papers and whatnot. So that's my idea for mushroom, is to die cut those. I will do those off camera and then bring them back and show them to you. And then tag, I've got these 2 like not vanilla colored tags. I'm gonna use at least one of them, maybe both, I don't know, because I'm planning on working on my Rusted Roots journal. This is a journal I created from Michelle of Mickelname. Has it in the Southern Gals Creative Academy, I think is the name of it. But it is a fun journal making workshop, and I think I decided this one has lots of pages with like pockets in it, and I really like the idea of having a tag in a pocket. You can see one of the pages, where is it, that I've done before that has a pocket. I have a tag in it. So because I don't really know how to use pockets otherwise. Y'all, if y'all have ideas for pockets, let me know, because I really like making them, but I'm at a loss for how to use them. So what pages did I decide on that I was going to use? You can see this is a manila folder here that was folded up and sewn, so it has this pocket. And then over here is a ledger page with a bunch of rest dye on it. So I'm thinking I will use both of these today, if not at least this one with the pocket. Okay, I'm gonna go do some die cutting and be back in just a minute and get started on this thread. So I did do those die cuts. I'm showing you some of them. The mushroom ones come in several pieces, so the caps have to be put on so you can see colors through them. So I'm going to do that off camera again, just like the die cutting, but I wanted you to see I did go die cut these individually, and I glued them off camera. I will bring them in much later in this video, but for now I have this spread that I want to start with by collaging. So I've got my acrylic matte medium here, and y'all, we're gonna have a problem. I'm having trouble getting it to come out. I was thinking I didn't have it but open all the way, but in a little bit I take it off camera and clean it out, and you'll see what happens. And it's good and bad what happens. You'll see it in a minute. So I'm trying to glue down just a variety of neutral colored papers. This is some Japanese newspaper here that a friend of mine sent me in a happy mail, and I've just got all kinds of things on my desk that I was like, I'm going to use this. And a lot of this stuff is stuff I have put off for possibly the 100-day project where I'm doing my mini assemblages. But yeah, not all of it is. So what was I thinking about? And you can see I'm trying to avoid the pocket there too, to glue under it. There was you'll see here in a second, right in there is the other side of that page is where my wax line cord is tied to hold the signature together, and that cord was kind of poking through that paper, so I'm trying to like cover it really well so that doesn't become a problem later on. So there I have cleared my medium, and you see I got so much on the page. Well, I found that that was great. This works much better when I have a whole lot of that medium than when I just have a tiny bit. So I've got to keep that in mind. In fact, I think for my card, I'm going to try to do the same thing. Make sure I use a lot of that medium because I don't have as many problems when I have enough adhesive. I have to teach myself that all the time, guys. I don't know why. I'm just such a like thrifty person that I tend to try to conserve everything. So you can see all these different book pages, and I think there's a magazine page in there, and yeah, mostly book pages in that newspaper. And I'm just covering it, and I'm trying not to cover all of it because I really liked that rust dye up there in that on that left page. And so I didn't want to cover it up completely, and I didn't want to cover up the manila either, since I'm bringing in the manila tag. And I was like, well, I want that to be, those things to kind of be consistent on this. So I just wanted, a little bit of interest to start my background, especially knowing that one of my prompts is gesso, and I'm going to have to put some of that down. So I'm smoothing everything out, making sure some of that excess medium is off of there, and then I will dry this super quick. All right, so here is the gesso, and I'm going to go ahead and this bottle is just about empty, so I'm trying to use it, so it was kind of fortuitous that is fortuitous the right word? I don't know. I was kind of fortunate that it was one of the prompts because it's kind of helped me use up some of this gesso. And I'm using my brayer here to move the gesso around because I do love the texture I get when I use a brayer on this gesso. So I do find a place over here that is not glued. And I think it's because I was trying not to push that medium all the way to the edges of the page. So I'm making sure everything's okay there, and that bump is still bothering a little bit, so I end up grabbing some washi tape and bringing that in. It was just some I had nearby, again from that Your Creative Studio unboxing I did recently. So I'm going to put that there over that little bump along with a couple other places just to make this cohesive so that that washi tape isn't just in one spot making it like stand out. So yeah, I'll put it in a couple spots on my pages here, and then I'm going to add a little more gesso over top of them so that they'll blend in as well. And then I will dry this again. I'm trying to remember what comes next after this. I don't remember. Not the mushrooms, not the tag, I don't think. We'll see, maybe. So I do dry it, and I am going to bring the tag in. So I've got the tag. I'm like, I need to go ahead and start thinking about it. So I'm going to grab another piece of book paper, I think, and just tear it down. I was trying to decide if I needed to do anything with that pocket. So here's a piece of paper that I'm going to tear down, and yeah, I will just glue it straight on to this tag, and it doesn't cover the whole tag, and that's fine. I just again needed something with some interest, some texture to put on the background of this. So I put that down, and I believe I'm going to go ahead and also add a little bit of gesso to it to push back the writing of it. So that, all done here, trying to integrate it. I'm still struggling. What do I want to tell you? I want to tell you that I don't know how much I like this page. There are a couple little things, and when I get to them, I will tell you why I don't like them. But I liked the process of creating this spread. There was a lot of things I did just because it felt right. It felt good. And if you saw my clean slate journal, you saw how much I just enjoyed creating that. And I went with things that felt right and felt good. So I was trying to do something similar here. All right, so off camera, I pulled out this, what's the color? Sea glass? No, I think it may be sea glass. It's Americana craft paint in sea glass. And I am just putting it kind of randomly across the page, I feel like that color really goes well with that little bit of ledger paper that's poking up there on that left side. So that's what I was trying to do, was get that on there so it was on both pages. You can see I brought my fingers into it, and I've got a lot of stuff going on, and I put a lot of water on there. And so I'm bringing in my not paper towel. My paper towel would have worked fine, but this is just a cheap towel that I keep off to the side to get paint and glue off my fingers or anything else. But I'm adding a bit more water and pushing back this acrylic paint so that some of that collage shows through, some of the gesso shows through. This was really fun for me to do. I need to do it more often. It's a little splotchy, I know, and if I did it from the beginning, knowing that that's what I was going to do, I think I could be more intentional with it. But it softened some of the edges of some of this and helped go ahead and get most of this dry. I think I am going to go ahead and dry it, just because the pages themselves were wet and not so much that the paint was still wet. So, like I said, I really liked that rusty bit that's over on that left side of the page. I thought, okay, how can I bring that color in? So this is a Distress Crayon in Rusty Hinge. And I'm putting it down because it hit me that I could use gesso in another way, which is as a blending medium to blend out things like water-soluble crayons and pastels. So I've got that gesso. I've put it in a little cup. And I think I end up switching brushes. I start with this brush, but not really liking it. As I start smearing out that Rusty Hinge, it feels too orangey red to me. So I was like, okay, I need something else. So I've got a Stabilo Woody in brown that I'm going to kind of put in with that. And I'll end up bringing in yet another Distress Crayon in Walnut Stain here in a little while. When this all comes to dry, it seems super pink. I don't know how that happened. I don't know what gave it that pink hue, but it's not what I wanted. And so that's one of the main things that in the end about this page that I really don't like. I also wish I'd used a bit, maybe more gesso with a little bit of water to blend out these colors, because I can see my brush strokes in it, and I don't dig that. So those are just some things that if you're going to try this method, think about that, experiment with it, play. I do like that I could use the gesso to kind of really blend in the edges of some of this, soften them up, continue to blend it out as long as it was wet. So I had a good time playing with this. It's just the final color scheme I'm not keen on. I don't like how this turned kind of pinky, and it could be that the sea breeze, what did I say that stuff was called? Sea glass. Ooh, I've got a couple. I've got a sea breeze too that I really like in that Americana paint. So I always have to think, which one is this one? So I really enjoyed the process, but I think just the palette itself is I'm not super keen on, is all it was. And it was all effect of me trying to match that rust color. And some of it there looks like it does, but when it all dries, it's not. I don't know. I'm not happy with it as it is dry. But some of the other things I did in here, I'm really pleased with. So this was an experiment. This was me trying out some of my tools, combining gesso and things like that, trying to find as many uses for gesso as I could. In my last one, you saw I splattered it, well, my card, you saw I splattered it a bit, but here I decided let's use it as a blending tool. It does great as a blending tool, and it did. If I had thought a bit more about what colors I wanted. So to help integrate those browns a little bit more, I decided to use my instant coffee. This is just some instant coffee. I've got a link to the one I prefer below, but I've got it in a yogurt cup, and it dries up and I reconstitute it. Sometimes I add more of the coffee crystals. Sometimes I just keep reconstituting what's in there. But yeah, it's one of my favorite paint materials. I don't know why. It does a beautiful job of picking up texture. So I am going to dry this. I did use a piece of book page to pick up some of the color, so it moved some of that around. That's my chunky pencil. This is a 1.3 millimeter pencil, just mechanical pencil that I like to scribble sometimes to get a little extra movement in the background of things. And then you see, maybe it's the coffee that made that look so pink. Is because that coffee brown is so brown. That may be what it is. I think it is, y'all. It's the coffee, because that coffee is such a true brown that those other colors mixed together become pinky. I think that may be what it is. All right, so I'm trying to bring in these die cuts. I wanted to start with the botanicals. I was thinking about having them up at the top of the pocket there so you could see it was a pocket. And but the more I thought about it, I was like, those are going to end up getting like ruffled and bent and broken, so maybe I'll put it down forward on the pocket. But for now, I need to figure out what I'm going to do with some mushrooms, because I don't have any mushrooms on here. So my tag had curled up with the medium that I added, and I decided I needed to bring some of the colors from the page into this somehow. So I grabbed another distress crayon. This one is in Cracked Pistachio, and it goes perfectly with that sea glass paint. So I could have used either. And for some reason, I try to activate it with the water, which ends up really kind of washing it off. So I was like, Doug, use the gesso. Hope that's your prompt. So I'll reapply some of that Cracked Pistachio Distress Crayon and then use the gesso to kind of blend it on the edges. For me, this is going to help make that tag. It's my tag. It's another prompt. It's going to make that tag show up a little bit within that pocket, and it just gives it some interest to the edges where I don't have something. So yeah, here's my little cup of gesso that I am putting on those edges there. And I think I end up adding some distress ink to the edges as well, if I'm remembering correctly. We'll see. We'll see here in a minute. So I'm looking at that and thinking about it, and I dry it real quick since all of that got wet with the water and the gesso. And then I will start trying to pull these mushrooms in. I think, so here are my mushrooms. For the most part, they are just like a brown and a white, just different shades of brown. But I've also got some that have like a green blue on them from one of the altered papers I ended up using. I thought I was just going to scatter them around on the page, but the more I looked at that, I didn't like that. So I am going to ink the edges of these mushrooms to help them stand out because of the white that is on a lot of them. I knew it would just kind of blend straight into that tag. So, and I know this is long and drawn out. This spread and these prompts, having to use a tag is something, especially since I decided to do it in an art journal page. Y'all, truthfully, when it comes down to it, I believe just the making of this tag, I have all of the prompts on it, but I wanted to use a tag in a different way than just making a tag. Last week, that's what I did for my entire prompt, was a tag, but I wanted this tag to have a purpose. So I'm putting it in this journal pocket, and I think that's going to work. All right, so I am moving my mushrooms around. I knew I wanted an odd number on there, and I had a couple that had some of the same papers on them, so I didn't want those touching because I'm neurotic like that. There's a little bit of OCD there about it. So I'm picking out what mushrooms I want and where I want them and how to lay them, and re-inking and all of that. So I'm sorry that this is so long and drawn out. It is a bit out of my comfort zone. And like I said, the page itself, I'm not completely keen on, but I'm glad I went through the process of it. And this tag I end up liking again, except for one little thing, and you'll see it. It's not a huge thing. Like all of this, none of it's a huge thing. So I'm gluing my mushrooms down with an Oohoo glue stick because it's all just paper, and that's how I attached the tops and the little, I don't know, what are those things, the little ruffles that are on the mushroom stems. What are they called? Are they just called ruffles? I'm sure there's a term for them. But those all got glued on to my mushrooms with a Oohoo glue stick. So, yup. All right. So that is what I've done. Put down. You can see I put all like the brown and white ones with just one of the ones with like the blue green on it, just for some interest. And it kind of goes well with the Cracked Pistachio / sea glass color I've got going on. So now I'm looking at this, trying to decide what I want to do for the top of this tag. I just wasn't even sure. So I'm going to go ahead and ink it while I'm thinking about it, because I thought, well, I could bring in a paper doll or a old yearbook photo or something, but I knew this tag was going to be the focal of my page, so it needed to be something that kind of stood out. So I'm going to play with this for a few minutes while I think. And I did bring in a pencil, and I've decided to do some hand lettering. And what do I write on it? Beauty can be found in the most unexpected places, is what I believe I am writing. So I'm doing this in pencil so that I can go back over it with a darker pen. And I've got an eraser there, but I am finding that the eraser is not working great with the pencil. And I don't know why, because that's all been gessoed and prepped. So I don't know. And that's the part I don't like, is when I get my darker letters on here, I am unable to erase some of the pencil lines. And I almost feel like I need to go back in with some pencil scribbles, maybe in the background, to get them, I don't know, to stand out more. So I'm going back over with one of these. This is a Tombow, and it's an F word, and it's long, like Fuda Shaky or something. I don't know what it is. I will put a link to these pens below. The pack I like comes with two. Well, I've bought them with both 2 and 3 pens. I haven't. Yeah, they are brush tips. One of them is kind of a firm brush, and the other one is more of a the brush moves around a little bit. So the one I'm using is the firmer one. That's the one I found that I like more, but that's just by using both of them and playing around with them. So as you can see, I'm mostly going over what I wrote in the pencil, not completely, just kind of using it as a guide of how I want things, which was good, because like my original way I wrote it, the Y on beauty was like would have gone into the E and that kind of thing. So it's just kind of a try it out, see what happens. And then I am doing it's a hand lettering kind of technique to darken your downstrokes. So that's what I'm doing there as I finish this up. And I will try to erase it, some of the ones that are bothering me, and it pushes it back some, but it's not, the pencil's not gone. It's okay. It's fine. You can see that what it says, it's not obtrusive. Now, what I really like is when I put it in the pocket, it says beauty can be found in, and you don't know where it can be found. So you have to pull that out to find out where beauty can be found. Y'all, seriously. So I still have those botanicals, and decide I want to put them on the front of the pocket just for a little touch of something. And again, I've got to like decide on which colors work with which ones, and don't I have 2 of green ones of this one? And yes, I've got to make it like symmetrical and balanced. And since these are so delicate, I am putting the glue straight on my pocket and then putting the die cuts onto the glue, and not trying to glue the back of the die cuts, just because they're too delicate. I think I'd end up ripping something or pulling leaves off with the glue or something. Alright, so that is my die cuts. I've got all of my prompts on there at the moment. I'm going to do several little added touches as we move through this. So for one, what did I want to do? I've got a couple more of those botanicals, but in like a white, off-white, and I needed something up at the top of that page, so I'm gonna stick those up there. They're just a little touch of something, you can just barely see them, but it adds some texture up at the top. And I knew, because it's got that hole at the top of the tag, I always like to add some fabric, so I will be adding something up there. But first, I needed some splatters. I needed a little more of something on there, and my splatters were not as great as I wanted. You can see 2 on the left there that look almost identical, and I was like, no, they can't match. Y'all. All right, so here's a piece of fabric that was sitting on my desk that's got these like just the right colors. It's got some browns and a little like brownie peach, like we've got where the Distress crayons dried, and I'm making a lark's head knot at the top of that. You can see that in my last video as well, and it's just about folding your ribbon in half, inserting that loop through your hole, and then the ends through your loop, and then pulling it tight.
I needed something a little dark on the page since I've got that black writing. So I'm using a graphite stick and just wetting it and slinging it on the page to get something dark. And I will dry that. And that worked beautifully to like so that dark isn't so crazy. And what did I feel here? I was feeling like, yeah, those little botanicals down there weren't standing out enough, so I needed something. So I've grabbed a white Sharpie paint pen and I'm kind of messily going around them, but then that white stands out so much. So I'm going to just loosely holding the end of my paint pen, make some dots all over both of the pages on the spread. Move my pocket out, and I think that may be everything. It's plenty. Like I said, I futzed with this forever. It's not my favorite thing. That pinky color is, I'm just, ugh. I wish it was more brown, but it's okay. I learned a lesson there. And some of those mushrooms match that. You can see they've got like a pinky color in them as well. All right, guys, if you like this, make sure to give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed yet. Let me know if you have any questions, and come back on Monday. We'll have 3 new prompts for week 32. All right, y'all, I will see y'all then. Thanks. Bye.